What is up guys, it's your boy Swole. I'm here back with another classic WoW hardcore video. Today I want to sit down and talk about my personal biggest issues or my biggest concerns with the upcoming hardcore servers and some of the negative aspects of the hardcore servers. Now Blizzard has done a lot of changes that are positive to the hardcore servers themselves. They have fixed, for example, to where botting is going to be a little bit more difficult. Boosting will be more difficult as well, like you pretty much can't boost. Mage boosting has been nerfed to the ground. Dungeon farming is not going to be a thing really either. They've done a lot of good things to fix a lot of cheating in the game itself, and they've also added so mobs can't get dragged out and dragged to completely different zones, like Terramus for example being dragged to Stormwind. They have basically fixed mob leashing. Now all of the fix they've done, there's one thing that is going to be probably the biggest concern I personally have for the hardcore servers, and that is still going to be griefing. Now Blizzard has once again done a lot of good things to combat griefing, and they've done a lot of things when it comes to, for example, players and abusing PvP, to where you can force someone to PvP flag by naming your hunter pet, for example, Princess if you're a horde character, then standing at the princess farm in Goldshire or Elven Forest, and then people will target your pet thinking it's Princess, or just people standing on Flight Masters and stuff like that. That being said, there's a couple of griefs that Blizzard pretty much can't do anything about. Like, let's say you're doing a Dead Mines run and you invite someone, you don't know who they are because you're not going to know who everyone is, right? You're going to pug people from the open world to get into your group, and at some point you invite a rogue to your Dead Mines group who's just going to grief your group. His full intention is to grief your group, pull the entire boat at the end or something, and then run away, stealth, vanish, sprint, just get out of there, right? Now, rogues don't have vanished that early, so it's not really that big of a problem, but there's going to be some people that are trying to effectively grief as many people as they can, and you will see them pretty much everywhere. Some griefers will do this at level 19 or 20 inside Dead Mines, right? They will join a Dead Mines group with the sole intention of wiping out the group, and this will happen at Maraudon, level 50, and even at level 60. It's going to happen inside raids as well. Now, routing this all the way back to a recent grief that happened on the Classic era servers for hardcore, where Teeny, for example, he griefed a hardcore guild, the Hardcore Elite Guild for North America, one of the biggest guilds for that matter when it comes to hardcore for Classic era. They were about to clear Noxramas, and they were progressing inside Noxramas, and there was a big grief on the force or 4 horsemen. Now, just to show you what I mean here, I'm going to take a look at the grief itself, so we can just see exactly what happened. Now, for this grief itself, you can see that pretty much from the start, he is supposed to tank one of the horsemen, and you're supposed to bring these guys to 4 separate corners, and he then brings it over to this corner to stack it up on top of this horseman, which will, at the end up killing pretty much the entire raid. There's a semi one-shot mechanic that happens in a couple of seconds now, and the people that don't die from that one-shot mechanic, they will die due to the mark damage over time, which also can't be petried. So even though some people survive right here, they can't petri. Well, they can, but the damage goes through petri, so their only real option is to find a way to Hearthstone out while they're here. I think between 1 and 3 people actually survived at the end, so pretty much 95% of the raid actually ended up dying from this one grief, right? Which this could happen at any time in hardcore. It can happen inside dungeons while leveling, dungeons at max level, raids at max level. It can happen pretty much everywhere, even in the open world. Let's say you are pulling some mobs, you're a mage AoE farming. Now at the end, when your mobs are on 10% health, someone brings a mob with 100% health into your AoE pack, and suddenly now you're in combat with that mob. Or a rogue just pulls mobs on top of you, then vanishes, and they will go straight for the closest target in this case. What I'm trying to say here, I'm spending too much time talking about it, but what I'm trying to say is that no matter what Blizzard does, there's going to be some ways to grief, like players just griefing each other in the open world by pulling mobs on top of each other, or doing it inside dungeons. It's going to be a trust issue, and the reason why this is going to be my personal biggest concern here is seeing what happened to Tiny after doing that grief. If I can go back to Twitch right now, we can look at his stats after after doing the grief. So you can see why griefers have a big incentive to actually grief in this case, because griefing is something people apparently enjoy watching. If you take a look at these graphs right here, you can see they increased drastically after doing this grief, and they've been staying very high afterwards, because it caused a lot of people to know who this guy is. They searched up his stream and they kept watching. So here we go, we can see before this happened he had between 10 and 20 viewers, like 12, 13, 15, average viewers of about 10 to 20 somewhere, and then after this happened the viewers skyrocketed, right? Peak viewers right here, and over here as well you can visually see these charts are way higher after doing the grief, when people started realizing like who he was, the name was out there, and what he had done was also out there. In terms of pure stats, you can take a look right here, the average viewers increased from 20 to 372, a 1,760% increase. You can also see the peak viewers increased by roughly the same amount, so you can see the peak viewers increased drastically. Now, seeing an increase in viewership like this, I think would incentivize a lot of griefers to do the same, and this time around stream or upload their griefs to YouTube or to Twitch as well, which is going to be the big problem here, because if griefing wasn't bad enough already, when they get publicity from griefing, it just escalates the problem even further. It's like, it's tenfold. And the thing is, this is going to cause a bunch of drama, a lot of content creators will be reacting to it, and it will be pretty much all over the place. For example, when this teeny grief happened, it was all over Reddit, all over Twitch, all over YouTube. Now, anyone who tries to replicate this process on the hardcore servers, I don't think will have the same success, because once again, this was the first big scale grief we've had in Classic WoW Hardcore, so anyone doing it the next time, they will be number 2. Now, being number 2 is not really the same as being the first one, at least, so in this case it's not going to be the same thing, but I could see someone actually wiping someone at the final boss, inside probably like Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, and even Naxxramas on the official hardcore servers, and it's going to be a big deal, cause a bunch of drama and make a massive uproar, and they will gain a bunch of publicity, which is pretty much why they're doing it to begin with. If you played Season of Mastery at all, you would know there was someone around who was griefing people and uploading YouTube compilations of the griefs, and they got a bunch of views. They got like 20,000 views per video at least, and some of them got way more as well, because people enjoyed watching those griefs. I don't really know why. I guess it can be fun, right, watching those griefs, but it just gives those griefers even more incentive to keep griefing, which is just going to escalate the problem, because griefing was already going to be a problem on hardcore servers. It's always going to be a problem when you have one life in a multiplayer game like this. There's always going to be someone who finds joy in taking joy away from you, and when they can get some affirmation or positive affirmation online from doing that as well, it's just going to escalate it way further. Now, this is not going to be the only problem on the hardcore servers. I still think botting will be a thing. I'm betting there's a bunch of people, like the people that are developing bots, they're probably trying to work their way around any of the dangerous scenarios, or just code and script to where bots can actively play on the hardcore servers to a pretty high extent, right? So botting will probably still be a thing, in which case gold buying and gold selling will also be a thing, but Blizzard have already said that they're looking at maybe putting in a solo self-found optional mode after some time, in which case, to me, gold buying, gold selling and botting isn't really that big of a deal, because I'm gonna keep farming gold either way. I'm going to spend the gold that I want to spend, and when we get a solo self-found mode, I'm probably going to enjoy that as well, in which case the gold selling and gold buying isn't really going to bother me that much, as long as we never get the WoW tokens to fix botting. If they want to fix things, do it without the WoW token. And I really do hope that they actively monitor these servers and ban anyone buying and selling gold, like more than they have done in the past. If you bought a gold in Classic WoW, TBC Classic or Wrath Classic, you will know the bans, they were pathetic. Some of my friends, like in real life friends, they bought gold and they got banned for 1, 2 and 3 and 4 weeks. One of my friends bought 20,000 gold in TBC, which was a hefty chunk of gold back then, and he got banned for 2 weeks, in which case he just took those 2 weeks as a vacation from raiding and then got back in afterwards, right? So I hope the bans are bigger this time. Make it really hurt if you buy or sell gold, and if you're botting as well, just permaban. yeah, that's pretty much what I have for you today. The biggest concern I personally have for the hardcore servers is definitely griefing in this case, especially now that some time has gone since the teeny grief, and we still see the amount of attention he got from it. And the attention isn't something he just got for one day, the attention has kept being there. Like, referring back to the charts, his viewership has skyrocketed and stayed high afterwards, so it's going to give some big incentive to anyone trying to grief. Either way, that's just what I wanted to talk about today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like down below. I am very excited for the hardcore servers, either way, like griefing, no griefing. I'm excited either way, I'm just gonna have fun. So I'm going to be streaming my entire process live on Twitch and Kick, the links are down below. I also do have a classic WoW gold making guide for the upcoming hardcore servers. If you're like me and you want to make a gold, farm gold, or just flip items on the auction house, I share all of my secrets in that gold making guide. The link to that one is also down below. Either way, leave a like, leave a comment, and thank you so much for watching. As always, I'll see you again very soon.